Hey everyone, and welcome back to Retro Legends. Double Dragon is one of the most iconic beat-em-up games in video game history, a title that defined the genre and influenced dozens of games that followed. Let's get started. Released in 1987 and developed by Technōs Japan, the game was created by Yoshihisa Kishimoto, already known for creating Renegade, another title that laid the foundation for the genre. Double Dragon, however, perfected the formula, introducing cooperative multiplayer and a simple but effective story involving two brothers, Billy and Jimmy Lee, determined to save Marion, Billy's girlfriend, kidnapped by the Black Warriors gang. The game stands out for its combat system, with moves that include punches, kicks, elbow strikes, and grappling, and for the use of weapons collected from enemies, like bats, knives, and whips. The urban and post-apocalyptic setting is inspired by action movies of the 1980s, especially films like The Warriors and Escape from New York. Making the game wasn't easy. Technōs Japan, a relatively small company, had to work with limited technology. They had to find a way to make the gameplay smooth and exciting. One of the most innovative elements was the vertical scrolling system and horizontal scrolling, which allowed players to move freely within the environments, a step forward from the classic fixed-screen fighting games. The idea of introducing cooperative multiplayer was a winning choice as it allowed players to team up to face waves of enemies, enhancing the immersive experience. The decision to make the game based on two protagonists was also influenced by the desire to create a more engaging arcade experience and, as a result, increase the revenue from the arcade machines. The success was such that many arcades were forced to install more cabinets to meet the demand. Double Dragon was an instant hit. It was so popular that it was released on home consoles like NES, Master System, and home computers. However, these versions had some limitations compared to the arcade version. Some ports had big changes. For example, the NES version didn't have the two-player mode. Instead, it had a turn-based system. Even with these limitations, the game became a classic. Technōs made many sequels and spin-offs. These included Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, and Double Dragon 3, The Rosetta Stone. Double Dragon 2 had better fighting, new moves, and it was harder to beat. It became a fan favorite. One interesting fact is about the character Jimmy Lee. He starts as an ally but becomes a rival in the arcade version's ending. Players have to fight each other to win Marion's love. This twist made the game even more memorable and famous. Double Dragon was so popular that it inspired a movie in 1994 and an animated series. However, neither of them was very successful. The movie especially was criticized for its plot, which was different from the game, and for being too silly. Many people don't know that Double Dragon came from an idea Yoshihisa Kishimoto first tried in Nekketsu Kōha Kunio-kun, known as Renegade in the West. This game introduced hand-to-hand combat with controls that were new for its time. Double Dragon was a natural evolution of that. Kishimoto was a big fan of martial arts and Bruce Lee movies, which inspired the characters' designs. Billy and Jimmy Lee are even named after the actor. Kishimoto also said in an interview that the game's story was inspired by his own experiences with street gangs and fights between students. The game became a way for him to show those experiences. This game has 4 levels. At the end of each level, you have to fight a boss. They've got regular enemies helping them out. If any of the boss's goons are left after you beat him, they'll run away. In 2-player mode, if Billy and Jimmy are both alive at the end, they have to fight each other to the death to win Marion. Making Double Dragon had some technical challenges. The arcade system they used, which was based on the Technōs 68000 hardware, wasn't as powerful as some of the others back then. The developers had to make the code really efficient to have lots of enemies on screen at once without the game slowing down. That's why sometimes characters would temporarily disappear when there were too many of them at once. It kept the game running smoothly. Double Dragon has a 2.5D view that scrolls in multiple directions but mostly to the right. You use the joystick to move around and the 3 buttons to punch, kick, and jump. Your character has a health bar with 5 squares. It goes down every time you get hit, and if it empties, you die. You usually get 3 lives, but that can change depending on how the arcade machine is set up. You'll lose a life right away if you fall into any holes or off the edge of the level. There are platforms you can climb, and in the 4th level, you have to watch out for traps. You have to finish each level before time runs out, or you'll lose a life. You start out fighting with your bare hands. You can do punch combos, 3 punches with an uppercut at the end, and kick combos, 2 kicks ending with a roundhouse kick. You can grab enemies by the hair, and then knee them in the face or throw them to the ground. You can also do flying kicks and headbutts, elbow strikes and back kicks. If someone grabs your hair or gets you in a hold from behind, you can press the jump button to break free. You can find different weapons as you go. Some are for melee, like baseball bats and whips, and others are for throwing, like dynamite sticks, knives, barrels, crates, and rocks. One of the best things about the game is how many different kinds of enemies there are, both in how they look and how they fight. In the original arcade game, there are lots of different enemy types. Most of them show up multiple times with different colors. There's Williams and Roper, the thugs, Linda, the only woman, Abobo, the big bald guy, and 3 other characters who are bosses. The first one, Jick, is a big African-American guy who looks like Mr. T. The second boss, Jeff, looks a lot like the main characters and fights like them too. The third boss, Mibobo, is like Jick but with green skin. Then there's the final boss, Willie, who's the only enemy with a gun, a machine gun. Most of the enemies fight with their bare hands, but Linda usually uses a whip. Williams and Roper sometimes use a bat, a knife, or dynamite. Only Roper and Abobo can throw barrels, crates, and rocks. Jick and Jeff show up as mini-bosses a few times too. Jick's in level 4, and Jeff with different colors is in levels 3 and 4. The most successful home console version, at least in terms of sales, was the one for the NES, released in 1988. The Nintendo Entertainment System version is obviously limited graphically, but the developers made the game richer in terms of the elements present, making it quite different from the original. There is no 2-player co-op mode, but only an alternating mode. There are never more than 2 enemies on the screen at the same time. The port features an RPG-like system with an experience level that characterizes the player's moveset. The main character starts the game with only the ability to punch and kick, and by increasing the experience level, he gets all the other techniques present in the arcade game as well. To the complete moveset, the developers also added the ability to attack enemies on the ground with a ground and pound action, as well as grab Linda by the hair. The levels appear inspired by the original ones, but still different and longer. One of the biggest features of the NES version is the presence of side-scrolling level sections very similar to a platformer. This game had a huge impact on the video game industry. It influenced titles like Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and even modern series like River City Girls. The popularity of Double Dragon led to many sequels, spin-offs, and remakes. Double Dragon Neon, released in 2012, tried to recreate the original experience with updated graphics and a more humorous tone, while Double Dragon 4, released in 2017, kept the 8-bit style to attract nostalgic fans. Additionally, Double Dragon made several appearances and crossovers with other franchises, including Battletoads and Double Dragon, which combined the characters of the 2 famous beat-em-ups into a single adventure. Even today, playing Double Dragon is like taking a trip back in time and reliving the golden age of beat-em-ups, a genre that has become legendary thanks to titles like this. Its impact on the world of video games continues to be felt, and its name remains synonymous with action, cooperation, and timeless fun. Despite the years that have passed, the Double Dragon brand continues to be a reference point for retro gaming enthusiasts and for anyone who wants to rediscover the roots of the beat-em-up genre. And that concludes our trip down memory lane. How many of these fun facts did you already know? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for more journeys into the world of retro gaming. Thanks for watching Retro Legends, and see you in the next video. Stay retro, stay legends.